Well, my life has always been, since I can remember, it's been about finding freedom, finding love, and basically finding what I consider to be God. You know, we go through life thinking that we know what God is, and the Lord knows many people tell us what it is, but there was always something inside me that was searching for that. My search really started to be very intense when I was in the army. When I was stationed in Gaza Strip, which is the worst place you can be in. I had to go for 2 years, so it was an interesting experience. The first part of it was very intense training, getting up very early in the morning, exercising all day long, and learning how to shoot a gun and all that stuff. So even though I always liked to have freedom and to do what I wanted, there was no time. We were so busy in training, and there's no way we could do what we wanted. Every moment of every day, we just had to do what they told us. So my mind became quiet. At the time, I didn't understand why I was happy when I was going through all this rigorous workout. But after the basic training was finished, that's when I was stationed in Gaza, which was really bad. And it was very dangerous to go home, because from the army base to the mainland was about an hour drive, and hand grenades were being thrown consistently. So it was very much like being in a prison in a way, because I couldn't leave. It was actually quite fortunate, because the circumstances pushed me to search very much for something, some kind of freedom. And it just so happened that at that time, my father gave me a book called Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. You've heard of, yes. And I couldn't stop reading it every night. We had bunk beds and lots of girls in the dorm. And I would read it to them every night. I would sit on my bed and read it over and over and over again. So I couldn't put that book down, and it gave me a very strong feeling that I have to go one day. I will go to India and find a guru. And I probably didn't even understand what the book was saying, but I knew that was where I wanted to go, and that's what I wanted. At the time, my parents had just gone through a very bad divorce, and I was having a lot of disappointments in my own relationships. So one day, when I got out of the base, I went and hitchhiked to the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. In the Wailing Wall, you write on a piece of paper something that you want, a prayer or something, and you put it in the cracks, and it's supposed to come true. That's really the only connection I ever had to religion. Because my parents were Canadian Jews who were totally atheists. There was no religion growing up in my house. So what I wrote on this note was that I want to find the real kind of love, not the kind that comes and goes, not the kind that is painful all the time. I wanted something, the kind of love that I imagined would come from God, the way that God would love. That's what I wanted, and I put it in there. So then when I got out of the army, I started living in a commune with hippies. I became a hippie, and I lived with a bunch of hippies, all musicians and artists. So I was trying to find my way through drugs. You know, we would take all kinds of, anything from LSD to magic mushrooms, marijuana, you name it. We took it all, and we would get really high and ask, who am I, who am I? And we thought that's the way we're going to find God. One night, I had a very powerful experience in my sleep, in my dream. I was in this room with a lot of people, and suddenly everything disappeared completely. It became completely dark, pitch black. Couldn't see anything. And I didn't know, I felt this presence, and a very, very powerful presence around me. And so I asked it, and not with words, because nothing was happening the normal way. And with senses, I couldn't see anything. But I asked it without words, what is it? And the answer that came to me, again without words, was, I am the power of love. Oh. And all you ever need in your life is love and to love. Shortly after that, I never told anybody about this, but shortly after that, our commune dissolved, and I broke up with my boyfriend. Oh. And again, now I was really wanting something. I wanted some kind of knowledge. I wanted to find something. I knew I had to fill that hole. So I went to visit a friend, and this friend had a wall about like this big, full of books. Every New Age book, Ramtha, Shmamtha, everything was on the wall, every book. So I went through each one. I opened, too intellectual, opened, oh no, I don't understand. Another one, no, nothing. So I was ready to go home, but just before I went home, I needed to use the washroom. On the floor in the washroom were two books. There were two books by Swami Muktananda. And his picture was on it. And one of the pictures, his eyes were so full of love, and underneath it, it says, there's boundless love within. Go there and find it. So when I saw that, and I saw the love in his eyes, I connected it to my dream, and I said, this is what I have to do. I took the books immediately. And it turned out that a friend of ours that used to be in the commune sent it to my friends. So I wrote him immediately saying that I'm coming. Now everyone tried to stop me. My father sent me to a psychiatrist to make me stop, to change my mind. My stepmother offered I had an early inheritance, 25% of a fully paid house. She offered to match that amount if I stayed and bought a house. My boyfriend came every day on the motorcycle, wanted to marry me. Another friend wanted to take me around the world, and my father offered to pay for all my education if I stayed. So, but nothing could stop me. I just knew inside I have to go. If this man could teach me how to find God, then I don't care about anything else in my life. That was my priority. So within 3 weeks, I was gone. So when I arrived at the ashram, he was living in a big ashram in India. And he was a monk. He wore the orange and the dot and the whole thing, sitting on a throne, and everyone was bowing to him. And the person who brought me, who sent the books and then brought me to him, his name was Israel. So the Swami, we called him Baba. He asked, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Israel." And then he said, "Well, who brought you here?" I said, "Israel." He said, "Whatever I ask her, she says Israel." And then I gave him a gift. I embroidered a yarmulke, the Jewish hat, for him. And I gave it to him. And when I gave it to him, he said to me, very serious, very prophetic voice, he said, "One day you will realize that you are Jesus Christ." I thought that was a bit strange. The problem with things like that is that it's not very good for the ego to hear things like that. And that actually was the beginning of the end of the purity of my search. Now it was starting to become a spiritual story of having to reach a lofty goal, as opposed to the love, the intense love that I was feeling inside and the yearning for God. So it turned my yearning more into an ambition. The ashram life was very difficult. We had to get up at 3 in the morning and go to meditate, take a cold shower, a cold bath, with a bucket and a mug on us. But because of my army training, it was okay. A lot of people didn't lie. They left after a few days. Because then you couldn't wear shoes in the ashram. So the washrooms were like maybe 5-minute walk from where we were. So in the dark you had to go and watch out for scorpions and stuff like that. Then after we meditated in the morning, then there was a chant at 5 o'clock for about an hour and a half, a chant in praise of the Guru. And basically all day either working or chanting or meditating, working, chanting, no social life, nobody talked to anybody, no TV, no radio, no going outside. And the basic teaching was honor yourself, worship yourself, kneel to your own self, because God dwells within you as you, which by itself is not too bad if you know what that you is, but nobody tells you and nobody shows you how to do it. So what is going within? What does that mean? And the other part is that in order to be able to get it, what that is, you had to be with the Guru for many years. You had to worship the Guru. You had to obey everything that the Guru said. You had to serve the Guru. So only when the Guru is pleased with you, then he gives it to you sometime in the future when you earn it. He even said to us, do as I do, do as I say, not as I do. So there are two main problems with that. Number one is that it's partial truth. Teachings with partial truths are very dangerous because you have one statement that God dwells within you as you, which you can resonate with because it's true. But there's also the other stuff. So if you believe one thing, now you start to believe everything. It's like, you know, when you go to a psychic, she'll tell you 100 things that are wrong and then one thing that is right, and now you believe everything. That was the second problem. Now, my whole path was outside, not inside of myself, like the statement said. It was outside. Somebody outside of myself was going to give it to me sometime in the future. So, A, I'm not going inside. B, I'm focused on a future that doesn't exist. It's only the now. But by now, my ambition was so strong. So my whole path started to snowball, going on the outside and pushing and pushing, pushing. How hard can I work for him? What else can I do to please him? That's all I can think of, because I knew that if he's happy with me, I'll find God. I gave him all my money. I worked so hard till I got very sick. At some point I went back. I stayed for 2 years, and then I went back and forth a few times, and I opened centers for him in Israel and in Canada. And after 10 years he died. And I was very upset because he died and I got it. Where's my payoff? Yeah. Of course, he had a successor after that, but a woman. But there was so much politics.
Oh, I see.
A lot of politics, a lot of fighting over who gets to be what. And so I started to get very depressed and very sick. I felt that something is off. Then after a total of 16 years being in that teaching, I came to Canada and I found another teacher. Again, I felt this is it. He was a metaphysician, he was a philosopher, he was an artist, he painted, he composed music, and he impressed me tremendously. He had a lot of energy, he was larger than life. He was a very wealthy man, he wore jewelry, and he spoke spontaneously. He can open his mouth and poetry would come out. And he painted beautiful paintings, and he composed beautiful music, and he had a group of singers that he conducted, and they performed all over the world. So I was very impressed. I thought anyone who could speak like that must be for real, because I couldn't. So I started to go to his lectures, and I joined the group, and his lectures were, what I liked about the teaching at first was he didn't talk about a future event, he talked about now. He said things like there's only one event and that is now. He said whatever you're seeking, you already have it now. And he talked about it as being out from inside out. And he was able to explain things that I was never able to understand. And so at first, I was going to all the lectures, and the way it was is he would speak so much, and we'd have to, afterwards we get a transcript, and we have to look out all the words in the dictionary to really understand the deep meaning of what he was saying. And this went on for about another 15 years. And what I didn't realize, which I know today, what was happening is now, instead of having this egoic ambition, look at me, I'm a great devotee of the Guru, now my whole identity shifted into intellectually learning content, knowledge, with my mind. So now my whole path was done with the mind and with the intellect. After he died, And this time I said, no more gurus.
Okay.
I'm going to listen to my own voice. The thing is, when I was with him, I thought that now I finally found the real thing. The India thing was a good beginning, but now it's the real thing. So it was very hard for me, even though I noticed that I was starting to go to other courses and reading other spiritual books. It was very hard for me because I kept asking myself, if I found the real thing, why am I still searching? So it bothered me, but I felt like something was still missing. And so I tried to go more into, I read all of Eckhart Tolle's books. I didn't understand any of it because I thought, oh, it's just like what the other teacher said. And then I got into Law of Attraction. Secret, Abraham Hicks, because I thought, at least I'm going to make my life better. But then the amazing thing happened is I met this fellow. The first time when I met him, we got together and we went out for about a month. But I kept finding things wrong with him. He wore sandals with socks, and he wore the same shirt twice in a row. Who does that? He wasn't trying to impress me. But I was trying to impress him. I thought I had this teacher that was fantastic, and was in India, and then maybe I can impress him. But it didn't happen. By this time, I had already been single for almost 18 years, and it was very difficult for me to be with a man. So after 1 month, I just couldn't handle it.